Penguin Random House Audio presents The Rested Child. Why your tired, wired, or irritable child may have a sleep disorder and how to help. This is the author, W. Chris Winter, MD. Note to listeners, this program includes a downloadable PDF that contains the Laws of the House of Sleep appendix, treatment appendix, bibliography, and graphics from the book. This book is dedicated to the many kids I've had the privilege to treat over the years, and to Maeve, Tice, and Cam, the three sleepyheads I had the fortune to wake up every morning. Preface. As I write The Rested Child, COVID-19 continues to wage war on communities around the globe. It is a stressful time, particularly for kids. My clinic schedule is packed with patients with sleep issues, often fueled by their anxieties. This is particularly true for young people who thrive on social interaction, exercise, and routines. The lack of organized, predictable activities wreaks havoc on their sleep, which makes them even more anxious. In addition, they are also staying up late to play video games with their friends and to Zoom with the West Coast family. For my patients who suffer from excessive sleepiness, they are struggling in very different ways. The absence of a normally unrelenting schedule allows them the freedom to make their own rules and schedules, sleep more, and sleep more often. As life begins to move back to normal, these kids are finding it difficult to readjust to normal schedules. For most, sleep is complicated in normal times, let alone during a global pandemic. When I wrote my first book, The Sleep Solution, Why Your Sleep is Broken and How to Fix It, I quickly realized that I did not have room to cover kids and their sleep problems. I wrestled with this. How can I put a book out there about sleep that does not address anyone not legally able to buy beer? I see children in my sleep clinic all the time. In fact, about 15 to 20% of my patients are children, including college-age students who float between the youth and adult worlds. As I considered adding a chapter about children, I simply could not edit down all the things I wanted to talk about, so I began a new file called Kid Sleep and quickly filled it with the fascinating observations and research complexities of sleep in children and teens. I've always been drawn to helping kids. Leading up to medical school, I was fairly certain I would become a pediatrician. I worked as a camp counselor for kids with medical needs, volunteered with youth organizations, and acted like a child well into my adult years, so making the decision to help them out as an MD was easy. Over time, despite ultimately being pulled towards sleep and neurology, treating children became a substantial part of my practice and a coveted aspect of my job. I just had no idea how much of my time would end up unraveling the sleep issues of children, from babies and elementary-age youths to teens and college-age adolescents. And no wonder. Sleep disorders in children are on the rise, and all too often these disorders are undiagnosed. It has been estimated that 10% of children have a diagnosable sleep disorder, but more than half of all children who display signs of a sleep issue are not diagnosed properly. Every year, children are treated for diseases like diabetes, learning disorders, and chronic pain, when the root cause of their ailment may actually be a sleep disorder for which they are not being treated. Even if a child happens to be lucky enough to receive a proper diagnosis, according to a 2014 study looking at sleep disorders in children, only 5% of those with a recognized sleep problem or disorder receive any therapy for their condition. For children struggling with mental health issues, the percentage of those dealing with sleep disorders balloons up to as much as 75%. Often the sleep disorder is contributing to, or masquerading as, the psychiatric problem. That's right. Many families are waging a war with a disorder that is not the real enemy. It gets worse. Research shows that epidemic levels of childhood obesity, diabetes, learning and attention disorders, and more mysterious pain and fatigue maladies in children are deeply rooted in sleep. In other words, parents and doctors who are desperately trying to fix their child's sleep problems by treating his chronic pain with opioids may have the problem totally reversed. It's the sleep disorder causing the pain. The parade of mental, physical, social, and educational consequences of these disorders is almost beyond comprehension. Sleep disorders are an urgent health matter that have received far too little attention. Moreover, we are in the midst of what has been called a modern plague of chronic sleep loss in our society, and children are not exempt. In 2018, experts at the National Health Service in England pronounced sleeplessness in children a hidden health crisis. The number of children with sleep disorders converging with factors inhibiting good quality sleep and intersecting with insufficient and inadequately trained providers creates a perfect storm and is generating a sleep emergency in our children. We are losing battles against ADHD, diabetes, depression, and obesity, but all the while, these diseases are quietly being caused by or fueled by unrecognized and untreated sleep disorders. The perception is that these sleep conditions are rare. Nothing is further from the truth. The National Sleep Foundation estimates that 2 out of every 3 children in the United States will experience some type of sleep problem before they reach adulthood. Compared to the number of children who will have sleep problems, 40% conservatively, consider the numbers of disorders commonly thought of as being prevalent in kids. Diabetes affects 0.25% of children aged 19 or younger. ADHD affects 9.4% of children. Depression affects up to 4 to 5% of children. Obesity affects 18.5% of children ages 6 to 11. Consider also these statistics. The National Sleep Foundation recommends 8.5 to 9 hours of sleep for teenagers, but fewer than 20% are meeting that goal, and 40% report high amounts of sleepiness as a result. A Fairfax, Virginia study concluded that only 6% of 10th graders and 3% of 12th graders are meeting the minimum sleep requirement goals. Given the statistic that teens are responsible for 50% of drowsy driving automobile accidents in the United States, this issue alone makes sleep a true public health crisis. Hopefully, I have your attention and I've adequately made my case for why I wanted to write this book. This is scary stuff. However, unlike a lot of what is going on in the world right now, the sleep piece of the puzzle is under our control and is usually an easy fix. My examination of sleep in The Rested Child focuses on how sleep looks normally throughout the developmental stages of a child's life, how it can go wrong, and how to right the ship. Despite the severity of the issue, I hope that I've written a book that is enjoyable to hear, relatable, and most of all, helpful. Introduction. Before we begin the book, I think it would be fun to take a quick true-false quiz. Your teens take tests almost every day. It only seems fair. Good news, it won't be graded. Bad news, it's not open book, but keep track of your score. The answers are at the end of this introduction. True-false, some children simply can't sleep. True-false, to get a child to sleep, a parent needs to let their child cry it out. True-false, kids in school need at least 10 hours of sleep every night. True-false, younger children always need more sleep than older children. True-false, if a teenager complains that it is taking him 4 hours to fall asleep, the perception is virtually always an accurate assessment. True-false, growing pains, when present, are always a normal part of a child's maturation process. True-false,
Sample complete. Ready to continue?